Good morning, Michael.
Good morning, Daniel.
Good morning, guys. It's Running Around Jerusalem, episode 4.
Woo!
We're here at the Old City, and today's session is called Running Around the Walls in 30 Minutes. Michael, what are we going to see today?
Well, exactly what you just said. We are going to run around the walls of Jerusalem. And one of the things I want you to understand from this run is that walls in this city and names in this city don't always match what you see or what they sound like.
Not always
because
correct.
there are some amazing treasures without even going into what we call the quote-unquote Old City today. I hope to share them with you. We're going to see things from the Christians, the Muslims, the Jews, all different time periods. It's going to be amazing.
Okay. Let's start off with some basics, Michael, because I know a lot of the journey today is going to be confusing. The old city walls that we have now, let's start with those. Yeah?
Yeah.
Okay. Those were built when? By whom? What are we talking about?
Okay, so the basic walls that we see right now were built by Suleiman the Magnificent, one of the Ottoman rulers,
Right.
1535 to 1541.
Okay, so these walls are like 500 years old, give or take.
Yes, which is amazing because when you think about Jerusalem, that's brand new when it comes to Jerusalem's history.
Right. Okay, and we mentioned last time that the old city walls are built on top of older walls. So Jerusalem has had walls for some 2,000 years, give or take?
Actually, if you remember, the city is about 4,000 years old.
Right. But we're saying the walls would have always been there?
So there have been walls from about that time. When David came and conquered the city 3,000 years ago, there were already walls here.
Right.
Right, which is interesting because we call the place, at least the original part of Jerusalem, the city of David.
Yeah.
So you would think, oh, David built this place.
Right.
No. Why is it called the city of David? More because the same reason that Yankee Stadium is called the house that Ruth built.
Yeah.
Babe Ruth didn't actually build the stadium,
Right.
but he gave it importance.
Uh-huh.
So too, that's what David did.
Right.
So that means, though, going back to what we're talking about, is that Jerusalem has had walls pretty much for 4,000 years. Now, they've been in different iterations, and they've been on different routes, as we're going to see here. This route that we have now
Yeah.
has been for more or less the last 1,000 years.
Right. Okay. So what we're saying here is that old city walls have been there for a while. These walls were built by the Ottomans 500 years ago, and basically the old city walls are layered on top of each other.
That's right. In fact, I'll give you another example of how this works. If you look to our left,
Yeah.
okay, you see this little wall, it's part of it's collapsed.
Yeah.
So this is part of an aqueduct, what we call the Lower Aqueduct,
Right.
that was built about 2,200 years ago during the time of the Maccabees, Second Temple period, okay? And it came from about 30 kilometers away and brought water into Jerusalem. But
The aqueduct that we saw in episode 1, is it that one?
the same one, you
The
got
same
it.
one.
But look at this, the piece that we
Tight.
saw there, okay, that was broken, if you look and you see a pipe.
Yeah.
That pipe is not from the Hasmoneans.
No.
That's a later pipe that was added by the Ottomans, who kind of refurbished the same aqueduct.
Really?
So you're talking about this aqueduct that started 2,200 years ago, but they keep adding layers and pieces and refurbishings to it.
And I'm assuming it was stopped being used also like 500 years ago, right?
It actually is in use up into the time of the siege of Jerusalem in 1947, 1948.
So this aqueduct has been going for 2,000 plus years.
Okay, Daniel, so we are going to kind of veer off of the main road going around.
Off the beaten track.
You got it.
Right.
Because if we're talking about the city walls, I have to take you to this little spot
Guys, just
right
watch
here.
out. You might step over there. There we go. There we go. Right, yeah.
So we're on the side, the slope of this mountain. It's called Mount Zion.
Right.
And they did some excavations here about 10 years ago now.
Yeah.
Led by an archaeologist named Yichiel Zellinger.
Yeah.
And one of the things that they found here were walls from the old city. But wait a second, the old city walls are up there.
They were. We've gone away from them.
Exactly.
We moved down the hill.
Because, as I mentioned before, the route is not always the same.
Oh, we're going inside. Okay.
So what we have here is we have 3 different time periods going back 2,700 years And we're nowhere near where the current old city walls are. That's actually from the period of the Hasmoneans, same time from the aqueduct.
Right, that's the 2,000-year-old bit of the wall.
Go above that and you see walls from what we call the Byzantine period, which was about 1600 years ago. And the foundations of where you see the Byzantine wall actually might go back to the First Temple period, to the time of King Hezekiah.
Okay, so really, in this tiny little dig outside the city walls, we've got numerous layers of the old city.
So when did all this get cut out? About 1,000 years ago, when Muslim rulers called the Fatimids decided not to rebuild it down here after an earthquake in 1033.
Just to help everyone out, we're outside the city walls right now. We'll run. We're pretty much going to be outside of them. We're running the circumference of the outside. So when we went down the hill, we actually ran a little bit further away from the old city walls, and now we're running up towards them again. So this portion that we're in now would have been inside the old city back then, until the earthquake. Right, perfect. Okay, I can hear church bells. It's a Sunday morning. How many gates does Jerusalem have?
So currently we have 8 gates that are open. I know in the first video I mentioned that there were, or second video, I mentioned that there were 7.
Right.
Actually there's an 8th.
He actually isn't a good tour guide.
The 8th.
It's fine.
We are going to see the 8th today.
With enough practice, he gets it right.
You'll understand why, at the beginning, I was a little confused there.
And we're coming out towards Zion's Gate, correct?
Yes, but before we go, there's a place right outside the city walls called the Tomb of David.
What? We're going to see King David! We're going to see King David! Woo!
Maybe in your dreams.
All right.
So, it's one of those misnomers, right? When did this, we talked in the last run about figuring out how ancient a tradition is, right?
Yeah.
So we're going to come up this place called King David's Tomb.
Which is not King David's tomb. That's why I got excited, and it's not.
So here's the thing. We know from the Bible that says King David's tomb is on the southeastern slope of the city of David.
Yeah.
We know the city of David today is not up here on Mount Zion.
No.
It's not where the old city was.
Definitely not up, it's down.
Now, when did the tradition start of this becoming David's tomb?
Yeah.
Somewhere between 333 and 1170. So
that's a big gap.
Probably we're talking about during the Crusader period.
So if I remember, the room above is important for Christians, right?
Yes. The room above is called the room of the Last Supper.
Okay.
Because tradition has it that that's where Jesus had his Last Supper.
Uh-huh.
So the room, when we go in there, it's a Crusader era room.
Right.
But the foundations of this building go back to Roman times. That part we do know. So could there have been a structure here that was used for the Last Supper? Sure, it's not out of the question.
Right.
So today it's used as a synagogue.
Yeah.
The main part of this building was established because of a Franciscan or Crusader convent.
Right.
And there's also a mosque in here.
So
that's not used anymore.
It's also ultimate Jerusalemite that we have a synagogue, above it is a Christian room, and above that is a mosque. 10 out of 10 for Jerusalem points, I would say.
Exactly. You hear the shofar? You guys hear that sound? The sound of the shofar. We're in the Jewish month of Elul right now, which means that the end of this month is going to be the Jewish New Year, Rosh Hashanah.
Yeah.
Every morning after the morning prayers, at the end of the morning prayers, we blow the ram's horn, the shofar. The shofar is kind of like a wake-up call. It's really an amazing concept that once a year we are supposed to do kind of like an introspection and see, you know, what are we doing in our life? Are we doing things right? Are we doing things wrong? Do we need to change anything? Once a year, that's what Jews do. Hey, wake up. Look at what you're doing. Take account.
This is Zion's Gate. We came out through this one.
Exactly.
Gate number 1 on our tour today.
But as we come down, this is one of my favorite places around the old city walls.
Why so?
Why is that? Because first of all, it's gorgeous. You've got the walls here, the greenery, and we're gonna see right here, you've got an archaeological dig. Again, we're outside the city walls. They found a mansion from the Second Temple period here.
Yeah.
Okay. And one of the interesting finds is they have these little shells from the Murex trunculus snail. Why is this important? It was
found in this excavation?
They're in this excavation.
Right.
It was used to make the blue dye that Jews wear on their garments on these little fringes called the tzitzit.
Okay, Michael, you're gonna have to start this whole thing again. Snails, tzitzit, blue dye. What are you talking about? I'm lost, man.
You know these? Let's start with the Israeli flag.
Yeah, I got that one.
What color is the Israeli flag?
It's blue and white.
Blue and white. Where does the blue come from?
And a blue paint.
From this blue dye that was produced from this snail that the Torah commands Jews to wear on the corners of their garments.
On the fringes, little fringes.
And here's the interesting thing. For 2,000 years after the destruction of the Second Temple, we lost the source for this blue dye.
Right.
So everyone just started wearing the white fringes. 2,000 years later, just after we are coming back into this land, we rediscovered it.
Yeah.
And we have so much archaeological proof that proves it's from this snail.
Right.
Including a whole factory and workshop up in the north in Tel Dor, where they found hundreds of thousands of these snail shards.
Yeah.
And so we've rediscovered the source for this dye. Amazing story. If you want to read the whole thing, it's a great book about it. I'll put a link to it down below in the comments.
What's the book called?
The Rarest Blue.
Okay, so we're gonna go do like a little bit of an in and out here, just past the western wall. So the gate we're going in is called?
It's called the Tanner's Gate.
Okay, what's that?
It's this little kind of hole in the wall that you'll see.
Yeah.
We know that there were Jewish families that were tanners, and the tanning industry smells really, really bad.
Yeah.
So they basically threw them out towards the sides of the wall, or even away from the next gate, which is called the Dung Gate. Imagine that.
So it smells so bad.
They moved it away from the Dung Gate. This is all a great story, except this probably has nothing to do with the family of tanners that existed here in the Middle Ages. But nonetheless.
So it's another one of these old city ones where the name means nothing.
Yeah, it actually was probably a gate that led to a small fortress right there during a Muslim period called the Ayyubid period.
Most people probably know this gate because it is the gate closest to the western wall.
And that's the Dung Gate right now, exactly.
Right.
And that's what you see is the western wall and the Al-Aqsa Mosque and the Temple Mount right there.
Okay. We're kind of carrying on our journey.
We're coming out, and this is what the other thing I want to point out to you is that now to our right, you have this great view down towards where the city of David is, where the original Jerusalem is. We are on the very southern end of the old city, but the most ancient part of the city is down there outside of the city walls.
Yeah.
And there's some amazing excavations. You know, I think we're going to actually do a whole show going through the city of David, so I don't want to go in too much into it now, but this is where the ancient city was.
Tell us if you would like to see that. Jeez. And someone's hitting their car. Okay, fine. Oh, we got another car. Hold on. Thank you. All right. Coming back. So we're back next to the wall, out of Dung Gate. The next gate on our travel will be coming around the corner. Coming
around the corner, we're going to get to the Gate of Mercy, but really, what's cool is the most ancient of the gates that we're passing right now. Of course, they're all sealed up. These are the southern walls. It's what's called the southern wall excavations. But you can actually see there's stairs leading up to these ancient gates. And if you were a pilgrim coming to visit Jerusalem 2,000 years ago when the Second Temple stood, most likely you went through the sealed up gates that are right up here.
Right.
this area.
And the excavations down below, these would have been houses or something? I don't know.
So you've got houses, you have public buildings, they have a gate from the first temple period. Okay, so we have part of a wall from the time of King Solomon.
Yeah.
Amazing stuff that's been found in here. And some of the original stairs that people would have used leading up into the Temple Mount.
Right.
The other cool thing that you have here is that we found all around ancient Jerusalem, and in here particularly, about 170 mikvahs. Now, a mikvah is a Jewish ritual bath. And here's really the only thing you need to know about it. In order for any Jew 2,000 years ago to go into the Temple Mount, you had to first immerse in one of these mikvahs, which means you're talking about hundreds of thousands of people that were coming here 2,000 years ago in order to do this pilgrimage.
Okay, so we've come around the southern corner.
Yeah, and you notice we entered into this green gate, right?
Yeah.
Do you know what we're running through right now?
I mean, everything around me is written in Arabic.
Yeah, well,
and it looks like a cemetery to me.
That's because it's a Muslim cemetery right against the city walls. And look at this contrast across the valley.
There's also a cemetery.
That is the Mount of Olives Cemetery. It's the oldest Jewish cemetery continually in use in the world.
Until today. And really, it's on top of an ancient cemetery going back 2,700 years. Remember in I think it might have been the first run we did? Yeah.
When we went to that ancient tomb, the caves. Yeah. Same idea, they're all dotting this landscape.
Right.
You have caves like that.
Okay, so very old Jewish cemetery, reasonably old Muslim cemetery?
Reasonably.
Okay.
And you've got right across the valley here, the Church of the Nations, or the Garden of Gethsemane.
Yeah, it's really beautiful.
So, and this is an amazing viewpoint for our Christian listeners, because you can really see Jesus's route as he was coming into Jerusalem in his final days.
Right.
Because he would have started up at the Mount of Olives, which is over there. Come down through the valley and up. And tradition has it that he would have come in through these gates that we're coming up to now, called the Golden Gate or the Gate of Mercy, which are now sealed up. However, in my opinion, the truth is even more impressive than the tradition, because he probably is not coming in through the eastern gates. Most pilgrims came in through where?
The southern bit.
The southern gates were just
the sealed one, yeah.
If you really want to walk in his footsteps, you can walk up the same exact steps.
You stand on the steps, yeah.
Yeah.
So here is our only one of the 8 gates which is actually sealed today.
Well, this was the 9th. I didn't include it in the 8th.
Oh, it wasn't even included. So this is our 9th which is sealed. Right. Okay.
And I highly recommend, it's amazing, you can actually see it from the inside, because right inside us right now, the walls, is the Temple Mount.
Yeah. Okay, so we have the oldest and one of the largest Jewish cemeteries in the world. Next to it, a number of churches commemorating Jesus' ascension. And I'm running through a very historic Muslim cemetery next to the gate, which leads to the Temple Mount.
As always, an incredible summary.
Definitely had one of our more incredible places to run through. I think we can all agree on that. And when we come to the end of the cemetery, we come to our next gate, correct?
You got it, the Lion's Gate. Called the Lion's Gate because you'll see there are figures of lions up over the gate.
Yeah, we're good.
So the old legend is that Suleiman put that up in order that he wouldn't get eaten by lions. But the true story is even better, I think.
Okay.
The true story is that it's a symbol of the Mamluk ruler and commander named Baybars.
Five hearts.
Five hearts.
Great
I
name.
need like dramatic music right now.
Yeah. Exactly. Had the Darth Vader walking in tune, yeah.
There you go. But the Mamluks are an incredible story. They actually began as this warrior class of slaves during the early Muslim Empire.
Right.
Okay, so for those who know Muslim history, it's during the time of the Abbasids. And the Abbasids wanted to create a class of warriors who were loyal only to the ruler. And so they went to the far reaches of the empire where all the stands are today, and they would take boys or orphans or whatever and bring them to one of two training camps further into the heart of the empire.
Very Sparta, this. Yeah.
Well, yes, except the Spartans, the warriors for the Spartans were the citizens, not the slaves.
Yeah, I can see the hitch coming.
Okay.
If you're a Muslim, you can't be a slave, so...
So here's the thing. So they trained them in warfare, and they trained them in Islam. But how can you be a slave to another Muslim if you're Muslim? The answer is you can't.
You can't.
So they weren't considered Muslims.
Right.
They were slaves. And they finished out their military career, and they would be freed, and they would become Muslims. But if that's the case, can their children become Mamluks?
No.
Why not?
As they're slaves.
Exactly, because Muslims cannot own Muslims as slaves. So how do you perpetuate this system?
You have to reconquer. You have to go around again.
Not necessarily reconquering, but you have to keep taking the boys and the orphans.
Or just conquer a new place and grab all that lot as well.
Exactly, and that's what they would have to do. Now, the truth of the matter is, because it was a promise of a good life in some ways, that there were people who would just offer up their sons to go and become Mamluks because they had a prospect for a better future.
Chance of a good life.
But this system perpetuated itself for 1,000 years.
Amazing.
And the last place we see Mamluks are in Egypt when Napoleon invades in 1798. He fights against the Mamluks. But at one point in 1260, and this is where Baibars comes in, the Mamluks actually rose up against their rulers, and they took over the empire. And so from about 1260 until the Ottomans come in 1517, more or less, okay, you have the Mamluk Empire that is ruling over here and over the land of Israel.
Right. Okay. We're very much in the Muslim quarter, as I'm sure.
Well, we're not in the quarter, we're in the
outside
Arab neighborhoods outside. And here we have the gate, which is called Herod's Gate, Flowers Gate.
Right.
So, and also it's around this area that when the Crusaders conquered Jerusalem in 1099, ultimately they broke in from the north here. We're in the north right now. We're kind of high up at the moment where the city is. If you notice on the other side we were, the southern side, the wall is really tall and there's really steep cliff and valleys that we're running through.
Right.
You don't have it here, which means it's actually a lot easier to conquer from the north. And throughout its history, most of the time Jerusalem, when it's conquered, right, we mentioned in the first run that in 3,000 years, King David conquered this place, more than 39 armies have fought over it.
Yeah.
In most of that history, it gets conquered from the north.
Right, because tactically, the approach is easier.
You probably noticed that we've come into more of the Arab part of the city.
Definitely, yeah.
Keep in mind that before 1967, this whole area we are now
would have been Jordan.
Would have been Jordan.
Yeah.
So you notice the sign here, it says King Solomon's quarries and Zedekiah's cave.
I think I've learned from today that it probably has nothing to do with Zedekiah or from Solomon.
You got it. Both of them are First Temple period kings.
Right.
Okay. And basically we've gotten their quarries from the Second Temple period, but it's a really cool cave. If you ever get a chance, go in there.
Worth a visit, guys. Worth a visit.
And this is Damascus Gates.
This is Damascus Gate. Okay.
In fact, there are different layers to it, and you still have some of the old Roman layer below this layer. In fact, the Arabs call it the Bab al-Amud, which is the gate of the pillar, because one of the things they found there is this nice Roman column that they have there in the excavations.
Right.
And this would have been the main gate to the city in ancient times.
It is very clear running around the circumference of the old city how much the city actually changes from one side to the other, because as the bird flies, the old city doesn't actually cover that much ground.
It's only about a square mile.
Yeah, but we come around the other side, feels very different kind of feel. Okay.
But this is a stunning area.
Yeah.
You'll also notice all of the police and security all around.
It is very beautiful, and it is also, as you can see, we're coming back towards the newer city. It's where the two communities meet, kind of the flashpoint in the middle, and hence the police presence around us.
And this has been the area where there have been several attacks and stabbings.
It's definitely a hot point here. Okay, so we're going up the hill again.
This is actually also, if you want to remind everybody running with this, that this is part of the Jerusalem Marathon route.
This is part of the Jerusalem Marathon route.
Actually, the Jerusalem Marathon will be under our feet right now.
Yeah, it's under the tunnel.
Under the tunnel.
Yeah. So I'm coming past now the Christian Quarter, correct?
Yeah, and we're coming up on a gate called the New Gate, which the name actually fits it because it's pretty much the newest of the gates.
Okay.
Opened in the late 1800s.
So it's the only name today that actually makes sense so far. Right, fine. David's tomb, not David, not tomb.
Damascus Gate makes sense, heads towards Damascus. Not that we have relations with Syria.
Well, recently, you never know. Things are changing, my man. Yeah, so up to the New Gate. So now we're crossing into the Christian Quarter, correct?
Pretty much.
And this is gate number...
all these, you're being very confusing because you're saying we're in this quarter and this quarter.
No, we're outside.
Inside the wall.
Outside the quarter. We're going past the quarter.
Yes.
What I'm running past now
is a wall.
But inside
leads to the Christian Quarter.
Yes.
Correct.
Is that not clear? No. I feel like that's clear. What do you think, guys? I think I'm fine. I think Michael's being an idiot.
This is why I'm the tour guide.
So, we're back in one of my favourite spots. Nice little interesting fact that between 48 and 67, nothing was here. This was no man's land. You can cross this bit.
and the neighborhood to our right now, Mamluk, which is today one of the most expensive areas in the city, was the least expensive. They do not want to live there because you're on the border.
And in front of us, as we know, is Jaffa Gate.
With the Tower of David.
Which has nothing to do with David.
Exactly, because it's a minaret from a mosque.
Nothing to do with David at all. In the general law, if you find something to do with David, if that's David's name along this city, just agree that it's not him. Well,
there's actually a lot of truth to that. Why is that? Because the truth of the matter is, archaeologically, we have never found anything that mentions King David from the time of King David. Now, there's one slight exception, and that is in the north, in a place called Tel Dan.
Yeah.
They found an inscription that talks about Beit David, the house of David.
Right.
But it's from about 150 years after King David lived.
Right.
Plenty of other names and places that are mentioned in the Bible that we have corroborated with archaeological evidence, but no silver bullet mentioning David's name.
So coming back to Jaffa Gate, I think most visitors also probably go through Jaffa Gate.
Yeah, and it really has become
the main entrance.
Main gate.
Yeah.
And look, we found in excavations recently, part of the Herod's palace would have been here.
Right. And
we know the Crusaders built their headquarters here. So they moved it actually from the Temple Mount at one point to Jaffa Gate, and they call this place David's Gate. Okay, so we're running parallel again to the city walls. right up here. I love, like, if you look at the olive trees all around here. Actually, olive season is starting just about now.
Right.
So they're going to start picking these in the next month.
Okay, and we're running back down away from the walls, going back to our junction where we started off. This is a great run.
This was a beautiful run. It's actually a pretty common route that people do around Jerusalem, and I highly recommend it when you guys come and visit.
Yeah, I actually, before we did our practice runs on this, I'd actually never run this route. I'd never done the whole circumference, just never occurred to me to kind of do it.
And what do you think is going to be added to your list of runs?
It's super enjoyable. It's like a super enjoyable, fun run to actually go through. I especially love like how much the scenery changes in a 5-kilometer circumference. Like the scenery completely switches back and then around again. It's just so different on the other sides of the wall. And really the old city is not that big at all.
No.
Which makes it super interesting.
We're talking about more or less a square mile.
Yeah.
Is the old city.
So we're just coming up onto 5k, but the amount of elevation we've done over that 5k is actually quite high. Plenty of steep hills in there. Should be noted if you're going to come run it. Definitely a hilly run, not one for flats. Yeah.
And here we come down to the valley. Today, inside this valley, in non-corona times, they have beautiful concerts throughout the summer and fairs.
They have an open air cinema. There's rock climbing. Anyone knows me knows I do love my rock climbing. Okay, so about a 5k run, plenty of uphills. We strongly recommend it. I have to say that so far it is my personal favourite of all the runs we've done. Get in touch with us, guys. Go onto the Facebook Running Around Jerusalem, leave a like, subscribe, talk to us, send us a comment, and we'll see you soon. Running Around Jerusalem.
Have a good one.